All right, we'll get started. Bri is a Solana builder and Rust enthusiast dedicated to empowering developers through open source collaboration. With a focus on decentralized tech, she shares insights and code examples to bring developers into the Solana ecosystem. And she's here today to share how to scaffold, test, and deploy programs, all using the latest dev tools. I hope you learned something from today's session. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bri.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm excited to see a lot of people participating in the Colosseum Hackathon. As you can tell, we have a lot of just builders and community and people like always happy to help if you're building on the hackathon. So I'm just going to get started going over some tools. Since this is the very beginning of the hackathon, I want to just go through quickly as much content as possible to just help you get started and know like where to dive in for building your project. So let me share my screen and we're going to go over some demos. Okay. Let me zoom in a bit. If you can't see, let me know in the chat and I'll zoom in some more. Okay. So the first thing I want to go over is just building on Solana in general. You're going to need the Solana tool suite installed on your computer. So there's a few ways you can do this. We just launched a new tool called Mucho. So you can install just with one command. It will do everything you need on your computer. It'll install things like Inker, which we'll go over in a bit, Rust, the Solana CLI, the Solana toolkit. But let's just show what that is. So you can run npx mucho install. I already have it installed. So I'm just going to run the help command so you can see what's available here. But if you run npx mucho install, it's going to install all the Solana development tooling that you need. So let's go through the other way if you want to go over things a bit more manual. If you go to the Solana documentation page, it's solana.com/docs intro installation. That's going to go through step by step everything you need installed for the Solana tool suite and everything that the tool suite involves. So you have the CLI, you have how to create your wallet, you have Inker basics. So this is just great documentation to follow along with step by step if you want to install everything manually. Okay, so now we're going to go over probably my favorite scaffold for getting started on Solana. It's Create-Solana-dApp. And what it is a front end connected to a smart contract with a wallet adapter. So it makes just very quick iteration on Solana pretty easy and has everything set up for you. So we're going to go through how to use it and then how to kind of build on top of it in the future for your projects. So let's go back to the terminal and we're going to run a little too big. Okay. So we're just going to install the scaffold on our computer, and then I'll go through it. So if we do npx create Solana-dApp. Oh, typo. Okay. It's going to, sorry, I had a typo there. Let's restart that. Okay. npx create Solana-dApp. Okay, so this is going to install the scaffold on your computer. You're going to enter a project name. Here I'll just say hackathon. And then you can select a framework that you want to use. We have Next.js, Node, and React. I'm going to use Next.js. And then you can also select a template. This template is for your actual Solana program. So you can do a counter, a basic program, or just using Tailwind. So we're going to go through the counter and we'll do a little demo of what that counter looks like. And this is installing everything that you need for this scaffold on your computer. So while this is loading, if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. I have that open in another view so I can see any questions that you have. Okay. Cool. So we're just going to give this a second. as we talked about, it has your Solana program. The Solana program is created with the Anchor framework, which we're going to go over in a second. The Anchor framework is essentially just a way to simplify Solana program development. It allows you to write Solana programs with very basic Rust knowledge. I know that a lot of people get a little taken back when they see that Solana programs are written in Rust. But if you're using the Anchor framework, it allows you to just dive straight into Solana program development with just like the basic understanding of Rust. So it simplifies things a lot, which I really love the framework. We'll talk about it in a bit. Okay, so we now have the scaffold installed. So I'm just going to cd into the directory that we just created. So we named the project Hackathon. It creates a directory with the name Hackathon. Now that we're here, we're going to just open this up. Okay. And now that, okay, we'll zoom in. Okay, so we'll just go over everything that's created in the scaffold. You have this Anchor folder. This is where all of your program development is going to live. It's going to have your Anchor toml. You can see that the scaffold is running with Anchor 30. We do have a latest Anchor version, Anchor 31 that just came out, but this is going to all be running with Anchor 30. And then in the programs folder, source librs, this is where your actual Solana program is going to live. Here you can see the program is just a basic counter program. You have functions like close, decrement, increment, initialize your program, and then setting the counter to a specific value. So this is what comes with the scaffold is your basic layout. Just to go over what an Anchor program looks like, you have your declare ID, which has the public key of the Anchor program. All of your functions are going to live within the program macro. These are the instructions that your program takes. And then down here, this is the derive accounts macro, allows for you to create different account structs, and everything that manipulates the account within Anchor, like initializing a new account, reallocating space, things like that. It's all going to be defined here within your Anchor within your account macro struct. So that is something we'll go over in a little bit. But now let's just show you how to run this program. So there's your Anchor folder, and then in the source, this is where all of your front end lives. So let's just build and run this. So if we do pnpm install to get, if we do pnpm install, we'll let this install everything that we need, and then we're going to run it on our local host and just do a quick demo of the, let me move this, a quick demo of the scaffold. Okay, so there's a question in the chat. What's the difference between accounts with a capital A and then just the account? So this macro here, derive accounts, what this is, it's just creating your context that you're pulling in here. So you can see you have this context with a custom data structure. That is what you're defining here. The derive accounts macro is just telling Anchor that you have these accounts that are going to be manipulated. And then within the actual account macro inside the struct, this is for specific accounts. So the derive accounts is going to hold all of the accounts that you need for a specific instruction. And then the account macro within the struct is going to be for each individual account and then how you want to update it. So here you can see this is all of the accounts needed to close a counter program. And within that, you have, you have two accounts. So you have the payer, and we're updating this account to be mutable because when you're paying, you're going to be manipulating the account balance. It's going to change, so you need to make sure that the account is mutable because in Rust, all functions are immutable by default. And then here, for the other accounts, you have it's mutable as well. And then you have this close constraint. And the close constraint is what allows someone to close the accounts, but you have to define the account that has that authority. So here you have the payer, and that is the only person that's able to close the account. So just to recap, the answer to your question is these account macros are for individual accounts, and then the derive accounts is for all of the accounts needed within a specific instruction. Okay. So going back to deploying, we're just going to run pm dev and let this run on our local host. Now that that's started up, we're going to go over to our browser and show the local host. Okay. So this is what comes with Create-Solana-dApp scaffold. You have your basic homepage, and it actually links you out to just important links that you need when you're developing, like the docs, the faucet, the cookbook, Stack Overflow, and the Solana developers GitHub. These are all extremely useful as you're going to be building. One thing to know, if you do run into questions while you're building your project, please go on to the Solana Stack Exchange. We have a lot of people constantly answering questions on here, and it's best to have everything documented here because if you ran into the problem, someone else probably did too, and we want to have that answer documented for everyone to see. So you'll see a lot of times, I mean, even some people will DM me on Twitter and ask some specific questions. I'll always be happy to help. However, I'll always also guide you to post that on Stack Exchange as well. Okay, so this is just our homepage. You can see here that there's DevNet, local, and testnet. So we're currently connected to DevNet. This page shows all of the accounts. You have the clusters page, which shows the different clusters that you connect to. On Solana, there's DevNet, LocalNet, testnet, and then mainnet beta. Typically, you'll be working between DevNet and LocalNet. We're going to do a quick demo of how to run everything on local after this. But the last tab is going to be the actual program. So here is the program that we deployed. It's for the hackathon. This is the counter program. Oops, I'm on local. Let's go back to DevNet. Okay. This is the counter program. This counter program is deployed on DevNet, and you can just use it as a normal counter. We can decrement this 20. If I click on here, my wallet's going to pop up. We're going to confirm the transaction. And now let this load. So you can see the 20 just went down to 19. So these are all of the commands. These buttons click directly into the instruction in your Anchor program. And this scaffold shows you how to connect the instruction directly to a button in your UI. You can see we can just try another one out. We can set this to 10 and then hit OK. The wallet's going to come up to confirm the transaction, and we'll let the transaction go through. Transaction is sent. You can even, it went away too fast, but if you click on that, the view transaction, it's going to bring you up to the Block Explorer. The Block Explorer is also a really useful tool. We're going to go through that as well in a bit. So yeah, this is basic NPX Create-Solana-dApp scaffold, and it comes with the counter program. Now, I'm going to show you how to take this counter program, and instead of where it's already deployed to DevNet, we're going to deploy it on our local net. So let's go to our terminal. We're going to open up a new tab, and we're just going to run a local validator on our computer. And once you have the Solana tool suite installed, all you have to do is just run one command, and it's Solana test validator. Okay. And now you can see it's initializing a test ledger and then starting up the validator. This takes just a second, and then it's going to start showing when it processes slots. So you can see process slot, confirm slot, finalize slot. So now we have our test validator running, and you can see that it is running on our local host. This is the RPC URL. So what I'm going to do now is get our program deployed onto our local host. But before that, you always want to make sure that you have your key pair set up on your CLI and you want to have it funded. So you can check to see if your key pair is set up by just running Solana address, and it's going to return the public key of your local key pair. Now, if you don't have anything set up, if you're new to Solana, newly installing the tool suite, you're going to just run Solana keygen new. If you forget all these commands, I know I'm throwing a lot of CLI commands at you at the moment. Back to the install page that we talked about earlier, this is going to go through how to set up your key pair as well. So we'll just go to Solana keygen, here it is, and how to create the new key pair and fund it. So on your local host, you can fund your key pair pretty easily. You have unlimited airdrops on your local host. So I can just Solana airdrop 2, and it's going to send 2 Sol to my local key pair. And I can validate this transaction in the Block Explorer. So I'm going to copy my Solana address, and we're going to go back over to Solscan. Solscan is a block explorer. There are several block explorers available on Solana. And you can see currently it's connected to mainnet. You can change the cluster that it's connected to and then see transactions related to that cluster. So we're going to just hit a custom RPC. This is going to be our local host. Now that that's updated, I'm going to post in my local key pair. And you can see 43 seconds ago, there was a transaction. We'll click into it. And here I had 2 Sol sent to my local key pair. So using Solscan is also a very great tool when you're wanting to validate transactions that are going through and just kind of seeing the status of everything. So let's go back to our terminal. Okay, and one other thing before we deploy, you want to check your Solana config. So by default, whatever your Solana config is what all of these commands are going to run on. So I have my Solana config git. You can see that my RPC is connected to my local host. You can always update this. You can run Solana config set, specify the URL flag, and I can change this to DevNet. And now it updates my RPC URL. So if I ran Solana airdrop 2, it's going to now airdrop 2 Sol from DevNet. But I want to keep everything on LocalNet right now since we're going to be deploying locally and working with our local environment. Okay, so now that's updated. Oh, and also one other thing to note, when you want to get DevNet Sol, when you're actually working in the DevNet environment, we're going to want to use the DevNet faucet. So pretty easy. You can just request an airdrop. So you can go back to your terminal, run Solana address to get your public key of your CLI key pair. Just like we did earlier, I can paste this into the faucet, select the amount that I want, and then just airdrop. You'll just do some verifications and you can see, oh, I have to sign in with GitHub. I don't have that on this web browser, so we're not going to go through there. But this is how you'll do it through the DevNet faucet. Okay, great. So now we have all of the maintenance set up with our CLI. Everything's good to go. So now we can actually build and deploy our program onto our local environment. We can click back to this test validator and see that it's still running. So we're good to go there. And then I'll go back into my terminal. And now let's close out what's running on our local host. Okay. And I'm going to go into my Anchor directory. So cd anchor. And then all you need to do to compile your program is anchor build. And that's going to generate your target directory with your compiled Rust program that is going to be able to build to be deployed onto whatever cluster that you specify. So now this is building. Okay, I see. Is there any default program already written on the hackathon program? So that hackathon program tab, the reason it was named hackathon program is because I named this workspace hackathon when I generated the scaffold in my terminal. The default program that is created is that counter program. So if you update the anchor program, that page where we ran through the counter, that's going to be updated to your new custom anchor program once you update it. Okay, so, oops, it almost built and then it continued building. 1 second. Oh, we don't see the bottom of your IDE. Okay, let's move this up a bit. Okay, now everything's compiled. So all you do is cd into your anchor directory. You're going to run anchor build. And now once it's built, you're going to be able to deploy. So because I set my URL to in Solana config it to localhost, this is going to deploy on localhost. So we can do anchor deploy. And then I just want to specify one more time. So provider.cluster is how you're going to define that here. And then it's just localhost. Okay. So now it's deploying. Once this transaction is confirmed, we can just verify it on SolScan again, always using the block explorer just to check everything. So now we want to switch our SolScan over to our localhost. It's already on our localhost. Good. So let's paste this transaction in. And now you can see the transaction was successful. We were able to create an account and deploy. So now our program is deployed onto our localhost. Okay. Now we'll go back here and then just run pnpm dev again. So let's cd out of anchor, pnpm dev, and now we're going to rerun this on our localhost, but now we have our program on LocalNet instead of DevNet. Okay. So let's go back to our localhost and refresh this. And we're going to want to update this to local because now we're on, oh, hold on, just reopen that. Okay, let's update this to local because now we're running on local. So you can see you're connected to local, but your account is not found on this cluster. It's because we just generated a local environment and we need to now initialize our account. So it's already prompting you what you need to do is just request an airdrop. It's going to do it for you. Okay, transaction sent, we're good to go. So now you see we have our counter program once again, but now there's no accounts. And that's because on DevNet, that is a program deployed where everyone can interact with it and multiple people have created accounts. Here, this is just deployed on your local environment and it's a fresh start just on your local environment. Okay. So that is pretty much everything interacting with building and deploying with your scaffolds. Let's just go back one more time and go over how you can now take this information and create it yours with your project. So let's go back into here. If you update your librs, this is where you can put any custom anchor program, build it, and then you're going to update your source to have the front end connect to the correct instructions. So I'm not going to go, usually I go through just like live coding, how to build a CRUD app here, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to go through all of the tools available for you. So there is a guide if you want to do this on your own time, just to kind of go through how to use the scaffold efficiently and how to update the Anchor program, and then how to update the front end to connect to the Anchor program. So this guide goes through step-by-step how to do that. This is just on solana.com/developers/guides, and you can just Google how to create a CRUD app on Solana. And what a CRUD app is, if you're not familiar, it's just create, read, update, and delete. This helps you with a large majority of projects you're going to be building, because all you're doing is creating new information to save to an account and how to update that state accordingly based on specific instructions. And so this is what I always recommend to people new to building on Solana. You can see here it explains how to update the Anchor program, going into detail on how to create your data structure for new account state, and then how to properly update accounts by creating instructions that load in this account context, and how to specify each account that you need for a specific instruction. Okay. So this, and this also goes over, if you scroll down a bunch, how to connect the Solana program to a UI. So that is just updating these buttons here to actually connect to the instruction on the program that you create. Okay. Now, let's go through some other tools that I find pretty useful. So this is just anchorling.com. This goes through everything that you need to get started with Anchor. This is the installation, which should already be done if you use Mucho or if you go through the regular Solana install webpage. But it also just goes through basic information and core concepts of Anchor, different testing libraries and client libraries, and how to use SPL tokens with Anchor. So this is just kind of, when you're creating Anchor programs, always have this open. You can always just Command F throughout the entire doc and try to find whatever resources that you need. And then we're going to go into just more program development. Okay. So right here, this Solana developers GitHub, there's a program examples section, and this program examples goes into basic examples of pretty much everything you can build on Solana. So it's very helpful if you're just looking for ideas, where to get started, specific use cases. So here you can see, if we click in, we have basics. This basics section shows you your counter, how to close accounts, how to create new accounts, how to create CPIs. So cross-program invocations are really important when you get to the stage of, let's say, transferring tokens. Cross-program invocations is a way to call an instruction from another program. So the most common use case of this is a token transfer. When you want to transfer a token on Solana, you'll have to invoke the system program to call the transfer function. So this is just a very basic example of how to do that. And it also has these examples in multiple different frameworks. So you have the Anchor framework, you have just plain native Rust with no additional framework on top of it, and it also has a Steel framework. So let's just click into Anchor for a second. Programs. And you can see this is two programs. So you have this hand and lever example. This librs, you have a instruction for pull lever. And then we go over here and oops. You have the other program, and this shows you the two different instructions and how to call them from each program. Okay. And then we'll just go back. So this is everything with just basic development. You can also see there's program examples for oracles. This is Pyth specifically. So oracles on Solana is how you can do several things. It's how you're able to get real-time price data. So if you're creating a project that has something that deals with real-time price, let's say you're creating a lending protocol and liquidation is dependent on the real-time price, you're going to need to use Pyth to pull real-time price data feeds. Another example is if you want to do on-chain randomness. So if you're new to Web3 development and you're naturally like a Web2 developer, we don't have the concept of a rand function. You can't really do randomness on-chain. So you have to do on-chain randomness through oracles. So we have a few examples that show how to use oracles. This is the basic examples, and then we'll go into some more in-depth programs in a second. But it also shows just examples of tokens, how to create tokens, a basic escrow program. So I always recommend starting with the CRUD app, going to an escrow program, because the CRUD app is just how to manipulate state within accounts on Solana. And then escrow introduces the concept of token accounts, creating token accounts, minting tokens into the token accounts, and how to transfer them. So this escrow program is in program examples, tokens, escrow. Okay. It also goes into NFTs, token 2022. So token 2022 is token extensions. It's a superset of SPL tokens, and it has additional functionality. So let's actually show you guys what that is. Okay. So you can see on our Solana guides, we have a lot of information to token extensions. Basically what it is allowing additional functionality natively within tokens. So you have extensions like the non-transferable extension, which makes tokens not transferable. It basically creates a very easy way to have this soul-bound token thesis where you mint tokens to a specific address and it stays with that address forever. There's other extensions like confidential balances, which just launched. That is a way to transfer tokens without relying on having the balance available on chain. So let's say you created a payroll application. You want to keep everyone's pay private, so you can use confidential balances on the token to do that. Another one that I think is pretty useful is transfer hooks. It's a way to, when you transfer a token, you embed logic that happens within the transfer itself. So let's say you wanted to whitelist specific accounts for a token. You would deploy a program with a whitelist. When someone tries to transfer the token to another account, on that transfer, the logic inside is going to check to see if the new address is on the whitelist. So those are just a few examples. I think there's 13 token extensions live today. So this is definitely something fun to dive into to add some additional functionality to your projects in the hackathon. Okay, going back to program examples. It also shows just minting NFTs. And then compression as well. So if you're looking for just basic ideas, how to get started, different things you can do on Solana, program examples is a great intro. And then once you've gone through that, the next thing to look at is going to be this bootcamp. So Solana Developers Bootcamp was created, and it's kind of like a 0 to pretty advanced Solana developer, going from 1 to the last project, I believe is, 13. So it starts with just a basic favorites app, and then it goes into creating a lending protocol and swapping tokens and investing, a token vesting app, a token lottery, and showing you how to bring applications to production. So this covers If you look into the lending program, it's going to cover how to implement an oracle to pull real-time price data to integrate a liquidation mechanism. So we can just click into here. It's going to be a lot of code. But you go into programs, source, and this is all of the files. So you have several different instructions. Each instruction is its own file here, just because it's a lot larger. And then, this is going to pull in Pyth. It's also going to show you how to deploy your Pyth account on your local environment so you can interact with Pyth locally for testing, and then use Bankrun to be able to test. So Bankrun is actually, we'll go into tests. Another great tool in Solana, Bankrun, it is using the Banks client and Bank server of Solana to be able to run tests against it. It's written in TypeScript, and it pulls in all of your Rust tests. And this is just a great example of how to use Bankrun for testing. And then, let's see, we have a few questions, so let's look at that. Okay. There's one, do you recommend any other frameworks like Steel? I actually personally haven't worked with Steel much. My default is Anchor or just like native programs, but I know a lot of people have worked with it and do really enjoy it. So I think it's just up to your own personal preferences. And then would you be doing workshops on those at some point? This is the only workshop that I'm hosting specifically for Colosseum. But we do have a lot of videos that go into how to do all this specifically. So there's actually this Solana developers bootcamp repo is linked to a YouTube, and each one of these projects has YouTube videos going through in depth how to build this, where to get the resources, and what best practices are. Okay. We have another question. Expanding on the question, say a legacy program with early token 22 creation, but you wish to add the new extensions. Would it be compatible with the current Create program? Okay. So the token 2022 program, it will be compatible. The only thing is when you create token extensions, all of the extensions that you want on a specific token has to be defined at the time of mint. So when you're creating a token, it's kind of like a two-step process to actually mint a token. You create this mint account. The mint account holds all of the global information of a token. And part of that global information is, does it have token extensions? And what extensions are those? Once you have this mint account created, it's going to return a public key of the mint account, and that public key is going to be used to generate token accounts. So token accounts are user specific. They're accounts created based on the user's key pair as well as the mint account, and it creates this token account that's able to then hold the actual tokens. So the mint account doesn't hold tokens, the token account does, and it's based on the mint account address. So when you're creating token 22 tokens, all of the extensions need to be defined at the time of mint, and you can't update it later. So let's say I created a token with non-transferable enabled. If I want to later add additional extensions, let's say I want it to now have confidential balances as well, you can't do that. Everything has to be done at the time of mint. So you'll have to recreate a new token with a new creation process. Okay. Great. Let's see. Okay, the next thing is just documentation on the Solana toolkit. So this page on Solana docs is going to cover basically everything you need for tooling. You have getting started. So this is just showing you how to install everything. It's using Mucho install, which is what we talked about earlier. It's showing you how to generate the key pair. So if you forget anything that we talked about earlier, it's going to be in this documentation. You have installing your tool suite, creating a key pair on your local CLI, how to find the address of your key pair with Solana address, how to fund the key pair, and how to set your network configuration. So this network configuration is what shows when you're running all the commands, what cluster is it doing these commands for. Okay. And then it also talks about just the basics of creating a project. So this is if you want to just work on the smart contract side of things, instead of creating this entire scaffold that we ran through before, you can run anchor init. So that's just going to generate the anchor section. Oh, and I'm still running my test validator, so let's close that. Okay, so if I run anchor init, I'll show you what that generates for you. And this is, oops. Okay. And this is not going to be connected to any front end. It's just going to be all of the Rust specific information. Okay. We'll let this open, and here you go. So you can see just our anchor section. It'll have your TypeScript test as well as the program itself. So program and then into your librs. This is just a basic initialized program, and then you'll be able to update and make your custom anchor program from here. Okay. And then let's go back to, here we go. Then this shows all of the other scaffolds. So anchor init is the most basic. There is also Create-Solana program. So if you want to work with other frameworks outside of Anchor, like creating native programs, you'll be able to use npx Create-Solana program. And that's going to be a scaffold that has different testing options available, different ways to generate your IDL, different ways to write a Solana program. And that's all going to be asked when you actually run the command. So if I do cd back out of this, okay. If I, let's make sure you guys can see this. 1 second. Okay. So if I run npx Create-Solana program, now, once again, this is just going to be for the backend side of things, nothing connected to a front end here. Oops. Okay, so here you can see within this scaffold, you can choose different frameworks that you want. There's Shank. Shank is basically just your native Solana program development. And then it adds in Shank macros, which help you generate IDLs for the program. And then you have Anchor. So I'm just going to click Shank. And then it also helps you with generated clients. So you can generate your JavaScript client or a Rust client or both. So both are highlighted, so both can be generated. I'm just going to, there you go. And then you can define the package names you want for them. And then there you go. Everything set up. And you have a new scaffold created with either Shank for your basic native Rust smart contract development, or Anchor, and then also has JavaScript clients and Rust clients. So this is a bit more advanced than the npx Create-Solana-dApp scaffold, and it's just for backend Anchor, or sorry, backend smart contract development. Okay. And then another thing that we have is mobile development. So if you're working on just like a mobile app, you have a mobile app template, and that's going to be created with Expo. And then there we go. Then this also just goes into all the information you need for building programs. You have your basic Anchor programs, your Solana program scaffold, web app, mobile app, and project layout. This also talks about best practices. A few best practices to note. You really want to be able to optimize your compute usage when you're creating programs, as well as an easy way to do that is saving bumps to your PDA. So a PDA is your program derived address, and that is going to be the public key for accounts that you create. Every PDA is going to have a bump associated with it. If you save the bump to your account state, it's able to just directly pull that information. If you don't save it, it's going to be iterating through different possibilities until it finds the correct bump. So this is just a quick, easy way to optimize your Solana program. And then you have another documentation on the local test validator. So this just goes through everything we ran through already with generating your local environment. However, when you create a local environment, depending on your program, you're going to have to update your validator a little bit. So your local validator doesn't have mainnet state. It's just your basic validator with nothing on it. So let's say I'm creating my lending protocol and I need to have Pyth to be able to get the real-time price data of an asset. I won't be able to test Pyth on my local validator if I just run Solana test validator. So what you need to do is clone Pyth from mainnet and deploy that account onto your local validator. So it's able to access the Pyth account information to be able to test your program. So all of that is explained in this documentation. So when you're actually testing things locally, I would recommend going here to this guide and just following it to make sure that you have your local environment set up for your specific Solana program. Okay. And then this just goes through Test Suite and what's available for you. So here we have a JavaScript testing framework, and then we also have a Rust testing framework. So we already talked about the JavaScript testing framework, that's Binkrun, and all of the example applications in the bootcamp are being tested with Binkrun. If you're more of a Rust developer and want to just stick solely to Rust, we have Rust tests available as well, and that's with LightSVM. So LightSVM is another tool that helps you generate tests to use when in Rust. Okay, great. So that's pretty much everything that I just wanted to go over. Quick rundown of all the tools available to you. And yeah, I want to leave a little bit of time for some questions. So if you have any questions, send them in the chat and we can talk about it. Okay, I see one question. Is there any docs or guides for building an AMM? So not currently. However, a lot of the functionality needed for building an AMM could relate to things that we have here in the bootcamp. So for example, with an AMM, you do need to pull real-time price data. This shows how to do it with the lending protocol. So there are a lot of resources that you can kind of piece together. An AMM is definitely something that we do want to have an example for in the future. So maybe I can get that out soon, hopefully. But otherwise, there are a lot of resources that you can kind of piece together for it. Okay. Any other questions?
There was a question early on if you could recommend any scaffolding that included social authentication or authorization tokens, if there's any tools like that you're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of at the moment. Yeah, sorry. All right. Well, that's everything that I had today. If there aren't any other questions, I'll hand it back over to Mike.
All right. Yeah, doesn't look like we have any others. Hopefully you all got something out of this one today. Thank you so much, Bri, for taking some time out to help them. This video is going to be posted up later so you can rewatch it. Hopefully you got some of the links in the chat. So if there aren't any questions, I think we'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.